Robin Hood. Prologue. About 800 years ago, there were forests everywhere in England. Sherwood Forest, near the town of Nottingham, was one of the biggest. People often went into the forest. They got wood there. They also caught small animals and birds. But it was a crime to hunt deer. Only the king and his men could hunt deer. The king owned all the forests and the deer in them. In every town there was a sheriff. His job was to punish criminals. The sheriff of Nottingham was a busy man. Many people hunted deer in Sherwood Forest. When he caught them, he punished them severely. But he could never catch Robin Hood. Robin Hood lived in Sherwood Forest. He hunted deer whenever he liked. He and his men wore green clothes and carried bows and arrows. All of them were excellent archers. All travelers to Nottingham had to come through Sherwood Forest. Rich travelers were all afraid of Robin Hood. He and his men often robbed them. But Robin Hood never killed for money, and he never hurt poor people or women. The men and women in Nottingham loved Robin Hood. When they were hungry, he gave them food and money. The sheriff and his men were often cruel to the people. Robin Hood helped them many times. But who was Robin Hood? He was not always an outlaw. His real name was Robert, Earl of Huntingdon. He was a rich man when he was young. He had a big castle and a lot of land. But he lost everything. 3 bad men took away his castle and his land. You know one of the men already, the sheriff of Nottingham. Who were the other men? How did it happen? Read the story and you will find out. Chapter 1. As you have heard, the sheriff of Nottingham was a cruel man. His job was to punish criminals, but he often punished innocent people. Other powerful men did the same. The most powerful man in the country was Prince John. He often accused rich men of crimes. Then he could take away everything they owned. He gave their house and land to his friends. One of his friends was the sheriff of Nottingham. Another was Sir Guy of Gisborne. The prince's friends took money from the people. They kept half for themselves and gave half to Prince John. But John is only a prince. Where is the king? The King of England was Richard, John's brother. He became king in 1189. Soon after, he left England on a crusade. At that time, many kings and knights went to fight in Jerusalem. While he was away, John took power. Richard heard of this. He left Jerusalem immediately, but he did not reach England. On the way, he was taken prisoner. Prince John did not try to help his brother. He said, "Richard is dead. I am the king now." John's friends believed him, but the English people did not. They loved King Richard. They thought that King Richard was still alive. Some of Richard's friends went to look for him. Robert, Earl of Huntingdon, did not believe that Richard was dead. King Richard will return to England one day. Prince John and his friends will not have power for long, he said. Prince John heard that Earl Robert was against him. He became very angry. Then his friend Sir Guy told him another thing about Earl Robert. Earl Robert is going to marry Marianne Fitzwater. Sir Guy said, "Her father is Lord Fitzwater. He is a rich man. He has a strong castle and a lot of land. She's tall and beautiful. I want to marry her myself." "And so you will." Prince John shouted. "Robert will become too rich and powerful if he marries her. We shall go to Nottingham and stop this marriage. The sheriff of Nottingham is my friend. He will help us." Chapter 2. Prince John told his men to prepare their horses. He rode to Nottingham with Sir Guy and a few men. They wore simple clothes, so that no one would recognize them. When they arrived in Nottingham, they looked for the sheriff. They found him in Sherwood Forest. Sir Guy rode up to the sheriff and spoke quietly to him. "Do you recognize who we are?" he said. "That is Prince John, and I am Sir Guy of Gisborne. Say nothing to your men. We need your help." The sheriff said, "I will do everything I can to help Prince John." "We want to take away Earl Robert's house and land," Guy said. He explained the whole story. "We must accuse him of a bad crime. Then we can make him an outlaw. He won't be Earl of Huntingdon anymore. Then he can marry Marianne." "I understand," said the sheriff. "We need some excuse to punish him. I have an idea. The man who lives over there is a friend of Earl Robert's. His name is Much. Yesterday, my men found a dead deer near here. We think that Much killed it. We've come to search his house today. This is my plan." He explained it to Guy. Guy was pleased. He rode to Prince John and told him. They watched the sheriff explain the plan to his men. The sheriff and his men went to Much's house. Much's family ran out the back door. The sheriff's men let them escape. They caught Much. They searched the house and found the part of the deer in the kitchen. "Burn the house down," the sheriff told his men. Then he turned to Much and said, "This is the second time you have killed a deer. Last time we punished you severely. We cut off 2 fingers from your right hand. But you have learned to use your bow with your left hand. How can we teach you not to hunt the king's deer?" "Please, sir, have mercy," cried Much. "My family is poor. We had nothing to eat." "You know the punishment," said the sheriff. "You and your family are outlaws. Anyone who helps you is an outlaw too. You must live here and never come back. If we find you, we'll hang you. But first, we'll blind you." One of the sheriff's men ran to the burning house. He heated an iron in the fire. 2 men held Much. He saw the other man returning with a red-hot iron. He fought with all his strength. He pushed them away and ran into the forest. The sheriff's men shot arrows at him, but they did not hit him. Sir Guy started to ride after him, but Prince John held him back. "Have you forgotten the plan?" he asked and laughed. "Well done, man," said the sheriff. He rode up to Prince John and Guy. "My men let him escape," he explained. "Now Much will run to his friend Earl Robert. Let's go together to Locksley Hall. That's Earl Robert's house. If we find Much there, then Robert is an outlaw too." Chapter 3. In Locksley Hall, everyone was happy. Robert and Marianne stood in front of the fire. There were many guests in the house. Robert did not know some of them, but they were all welcome. "Thank you all for coming today," he said. "Tomorrow, Marianne and I will be married. Tonight, let's eat and drink together." He did not notice 3 men at the back of the room. The sheriff, Prince John, and Guy were dressed as monks. They were looking at everyone carefully. A group of Robert's men stood in front of the guests. They began to sing, "Long live King Richard, down with John. Long live King Richard, down with John." Prince John's face looked very angry. "We will outlaw all those men," he whispered to Guy and the sheriff. Robert's men sang again, "Long live Robert and Marianne, long live Robert and Marianne." Everyone sang with them. The guests were very happy. But the 3 men were whispering to each other. "Do you see?" said the sheriff. "That man over there is Much, the man who escaped this afternoon. We have seen enough. We should leave before someone recognizes us. Chapter 4. The next morning, the guests all went to church near Sherwood Forest. Marianne and her father, Lord Fitzwater, waited at the door of the church. Earl Robert rode up with his men. They were all carrying their bows. "This is a wedding," said Lord Fitzwater angrily. "Why are your men prepared to fight?" "We may have some trouble at the wedding," said Earl Robert. "Last night 3 men came to my house. They were the men who burned down my friend's house." He recognized them as they were leaving. "They may come back today for him. We'll protect him." Lord Fitzwater looked worried. The wedding began. The priest said the wedding ceremony. Marianne looked happy. The ceremony was almost finished. The priest said, "Robert, Earl of Huntingdon, do you take this woman, Marianne Fitzwater, to be your wife?" Robert was about to answer. Then he heard a noise outside. A knight came into the church. 20 men followed him. All were wearing armor. "Who are you? What do you want?" shouted the priest. "I am Sir Guy of Gisborne," the knight said. "Prince John has sent me. Stop this wedding at once." All the guests were very surprised. No one spoke. Guy took out a paper and read it. "Robert, Earl of Huntingdon, is an outlaw. He is guilty of many crimes. He is protecting an outlaw who killed the king's deer. He is not loyal to Prince John. The sheriff of Nottingham accuses him of many other crimes." "What crimes?" shouted Robert, but Guy went on. "From today, Robert is no longer the Earl of Huntingdon. He loses his house and all his land." Guy said and stopped. He showed them the signature at the bottom of the paper. "This is signed by Prince John in the name of King Richard." "Show me King Richard's seal, then," said Robert. He spoke to the wedding guests. "I'm sorry," he said. "The wedding is not finished, but I must leave. Lord Fitzwater, look after Marianne. I will marry her as soon as I can." He turned to his men, who waited with their bows ready. "Men, let's go to Sherwood Forest. We have hunted there many times. Now we live there. I'm no longer Earl Robert. Call me Robin Hood. We'll make life hard for Prince John. He and his friends will be sorry that they did this. We are all outlaws until King Richard returns." Guy shouted to his men. They took out their swords, but Robin Hood's men were ready. They raised their bows and shot many arrows. Guy's men ran out of the church. "Goodbye, Robert. Robin. I will see you in Sherwood Forest," Marianne cried. "Goodbye, Marianne," Robin shouted. "Come on, men." He led his men out of the church. There was a fight outside. 2 of Guy's men were killed. All of Robin's men escaped to Sherwood Forest. Chapter 5. Robin took his men to the middle of the forest. "I used to hunt here when I was a boy," Robin said. "Once I found a secret valley. No one can find us there. Will Scarlet, Much, you are my childhood friends. You remember where it is. Go and get us some food. We'll meet you there." When they reached the valley, they made a big fire. Some men went hunting and brought back 2 deer. Will Scarlet and Much came with beer and bread. All evening they ate and drank around. Some of the men sang, but Robin was not happy. He thought of Marianne. That night should have been their wedding night. Now Earl Robert was an outlaw called Robin Hood. Where is Marianne now? He thought. Marianne was in her father's castle. Her father was speaking to Sir Guy. "Robin Hood is an outlaw," he said. "My daughter cannot marry him." "But father, the wedding ceremony was almost finished," said Marianne. "I must marry him, if his name is Earl Robert or Robin Hood." "Be quiet, Marianne. Lord Fitzwater said angrily. "I'm talking to Sir Guy. I think he can help us." "You need help," Guy said, "for Prince John is very angry about what happened. You need someone to protect you." "Yes, a strong knight, a friend of Prince John's," agreed Lord Fitzwater, looking at Guy. "I will not marry Sir Guy or any other knight," shouted Marianne, who understood her father's thoughts. "I want to marry Robin Hood." She ran from the room. Lord Fitzwater waited for her to leave. Then he turned to Guy and said quietly, "Find Robin Hood. He is an outlaw now. Kill him, or let the sheriff of Nottingham hang him. When he is dead, you can marry my daughter." "I understand. I will do what you say," said Guy. He left the room and called for his men. They rode to Locksley Hall. Guy hoped that Robin Hood would return to his old house. The sheriff was already waiting at Locksley Hall. Chapter 6. The next morning, Robin Hood spoke to his men. There were over 50 of them. All were green. "We are all outlaws now," he said. "We must kill the king's deer when we are hungry. We must rob travelers when we need money. But we are not ordinary criminals. We are fighting a war for good King Richard against Prince John. All of Prince John's friends are our enemies. The Sheriff of Nottingham, Sir Guy of Gisborne, the Abbot of St. Mary's, and all the others. They steal from the poor, keep half the money, and give the rest to Prince John. We'll steal from the rich friends of Prince John. We will keep a little for ourselves, and give the rest to the poor. We will help all the people who are suffering under Prince John." He picked up his bow and arrows and showed them to his men. "This will be our weapon against our enemies. We'll practice until we are the best archers in England. But when King Richard returns, we will ask his pardon for our crimes. We will fight loyally against his enemies." Robin sent Will Scarlet and marched to Locksley Hill. "See what is happening there," he told them, "but be very careful. Our enemies may be waiting for us." "Find my gold and jewels. Do you know where they are hidden?" "Yes, I do," said Will Scarlet. He and March walked through the forest until they could see Locksley Hall. They hid behind some trees and watched carefully for some time. There were many people around the castle. Scarlet knew most of them, but there were some people he did not know. "That man over there," Scarlet said suddenly. "He is one of the sheriff's men. There must be others here. It's too dangerous for you. Someone might recognize you. I will go alone. You wait here." Scarlet left his bow and arrows with March. He pulled his hood over his face and walked toward Locksley Hall. It was crowded with people. It was easy for him to go inside. Nobody noticed him. He found a place where the gold and jewels were hidden. He took 10 gold coins and put them in his pocket. He put the rest in the bag he was carrying. It was full of old clothes. He started to leave the castle. Then he heard a voice behind him. It was Guy of Gisborne. "Who are you?" said Guy. Scarlet hid his face under his hood. "I have worked here for 20 years, he said. "Now, Earl Robert is an outlaw. I must leave." "What have you got in that bag?" asked Guy. "Just some old clothes," said Scarlet. "Have you got any money?" Guy asked. "Only a little money that I have saved," Scarlet answered. He showed Guy the 10 gold coins. "Fine, fine, you can go," said Guy. And he asked the same questions to the person behind the Scarlet. Will Scarlet thanked him and started to walk toward the forest. Chapter 7. The sheriff came out of the door. He and his men had been searching for gold and jewels. He saw Scarlet walking away. He came up to Guy and asked, "Did you look in his bag?" He said he only had some old clothes in it. He showed me his money, answered the guy. He's just an old man who used to work here. That may be true, the sheriff said, but we don't know. We still have not found any gold and jewels in this house. They must be hidden somewhere. In that case, we must search him, said the guy. He told 2 of his men to ride after Scarlet. Scarlet reached the forest. He heard the sound of horses behind him. He gave the gold and jewels to Mudge. Climb that tree, he said. They will catch me, but you can hide there. Take the gold and jewels to Robin Hood. Tell him what happened. Mudge hid in the tree. Guy's men came and took Scarlet back to Locksley Hall. They opened his bag in front of Guy and the sheriff. There was nothing except old clothes in it. They found just 10 gold coins in his pocket. Give him his money back and let him go, said Guy. He's done nothing. Just a minute, the sheriff said. I want to see his face. He pulled off Scarlet's hood. It's Will Scarlet, he shouted. He's the best friend of that outlaw. He can tell us where Robin Hood is. Scarlet reached for his knife, but it was too late. Guy's men caught him and took away his knife. Tell us where Robin Hood is hiding, said the sheriff. We know he's in Sherwood Forest, but we don't know where. Help us find him, and we'll give you lots of gold. Say nothing, and we'll hang you tomorrow in Nottingham. I will tell you nothing, answered Scarlet. Hang me if you like. You will never make me talk. The sheriff's men took him away. They put him in the strongest prison in Nottingham. Chapter 8. Mudge waited in the tree until it was safe. Then he climbed down and ran through the forest. He was so afraid that he lost his way. Finally, he found Robin Hood's secret valley. He told him what had happened. Robin Hood looked sadly at the gold and jewels. Scarlet will pay a high price for these. Tomorrow the sheriff will hang him in Nottingham. We must rescue him. Yes, let's rescue him. We must all go to Nottingham, said the man in green, and they took their bows. No, that is the wrong way, said Robin. All of the sheriff's men will be there. They will be waiting for us. It's too dangerous, and innocent people may be hurt. No, there is another way. He spoke to one of his men, William of Goldsborough. Didn't you work for the sheriff once, William? Robin asked. Do you know all the sheriff's men, even the hangman? Yes? Then I have a plan. He explained his plan to William, who went to Nottingham that night. Robin took just 20 of his men. They wore dark cloaks over their green clothes. Under their cloaks, they carried the swords, bows, and arrows. Robin disguised himself too. At noon the next day, a big crowd was waiting outside the main gate of Nottingham. The sheriff's men brought out Will Scarlet. There was a tall pilgrim in the crowd. His face was dark. He laughed at Will Scarlet. Robin Hood cannot help you now, he said. The crowd was angry at the pilgrim's words. Many people knew Scarlet and liked him. The sheriff also heard the pilgrim's words. He laughed. That's right, he said. Scarlet will die as soon as the hangman comes. He turned to his men. Where is the hangman? He asked. His men looked at each other. Finally, one of them spoke. Sheriff, he said, the hangman can't do anything today. What do you mean? The sheriff asked angrily. Is he sick? No, he's drunk. He was drinking all night with an old friend, answered the man. The friend was William of Goldsborough. He made the hangman drunk. That was Robin's clever plan. The sheriff was very angry. He turned to the crowd and said, Who will hang this outlaw? I will pay double. The crowd was silent. Many remembered Scarlet's kindness to them. Then the pilgrim spoke. "I will hang him," he said. There were angry voices in the crowd. "Come here, then," said the sheriff. Chapter 9. The pilgrim prepared to hang Scarlett. The crowd began to throw things. The sheriff told them to be quiet. He did not notice what the pilgrim was doing. The pilgrim quietly spoke to Scarlett. Then he walked behind Scarlett. He took something from his cloak and gave it to Scarlett. Suddenly, Scarlett's hands were free. He was holding a sword. The pilgrim threw off his cloak. He held up his bow and arrow. "People of Nottingham," he shouted, "rescue this innocent man." "It's Robin Hood," the crowd said. "Stop them," the sheriff said, pointing at Robin and Scarlett. Robin Hood shot an arrow at the sheriff. It went through his head. "The next arrow will kill you," Robin said. The sheriff's men started to come toward Robin and Scarlett. Robin's men were hidden in the crowd. They threw off their cloaks and took out their bows. They started shooting at the sheriff's men. The sheriff ran back inside the gate of Nottingham. His men followed him. "Sheriff," Scarlett shouted, "if you want to find Robin Hood, you are running in the wrong direction." The crowd laughed. Robin spoke to them. "If you need help, come to Sherwood Forest. We'll help you." "Long live Robin Hood," the crowd shouted. Chapter 10. Robin and his men returned to Sherwood Forest. They lived quietly for some time. Robin taught his men how to live in the forest. They found other secret places to hide, and they built simple houses. Every day they practiced archery. They all became very good, but no one could shoot as far or as accurately as Robin could. They also practiced fighting with the swords and with the staffs. Sometimes Robin left them for a few days. Will Scarlett was the leader when he was away. Often he hid by the Great North Road, which went through Sherwood Forest. If he saw rich travelers, he blew on his horn. When his men heard the horn, they came and robbed the travelers. They used some of the money to buy clothes, food, and arrows. They gave the rest of the money to the poor people of Nottingham. Sometimes Robin heard the news of his enemies. Sometimes, however, he made new friends on his trips. This happened once in the first summer in Sherwood Forest. Robin left his men one morning. "If I'm in trouble, I will blow my horn," he told them. He walked through the forest until he came to a stream. There was a narrow bridge across it. It was made of one large tree. He was about to cross the bridge. Then he saw a tall man on the other side. They both started to cross the bridge at the same time. "The bridge is too narrow," the other man shouted. "It's impossible for two people to cross at the same time. Get out of my way, unless you want to swim in the stream." "No, you must wait until I cross," answered Robin. "Unless you want to go swimming." The other man lifted up his staff. "I will break your head, little man," he said. "I will shoot you first," said Robin, and put an arrow in his bow. "That's not fair. Cut yourself a step. Let's fight. The winner will cross the bridge first," said the tall stranger. Robin agreed. He took out his knife and cut down a young tree. He made a step which was almost 6 feet long. The tall man waited on the other side of the stream. "I'm ready," Robin said, and walked to the middle of the bridge. The tall man came forward. They began to fight. It was difficult to stand on the narrow bridge. Several times the stranger hit Robin. He almost fell into the stream, but he fought back well. He hit the stranger on the head and arms. They fought for a long time. Finally, the stranger became angry. He hit Robin so hard that he fell into the water. "Where are you?" said the stranger. He was no longer angry. He looked in the stream for Robin. At first he could not see him. "Here I am," said Robin. He climbed out of the water. "You are a good fighter. Let's not fight any more. You won. I lost. And you can cross the bridge first." He took his horn and blew loudly on it. They spoke for a few minutes. Then Robin asked him, "Why are you in Sherwood Forest?" "I'm looking for a man called Robin Hood," the stranger answered. "Really?" Robin said. He was about to continue. Then he heard Will Scarlet's voice. "Are you all right, Robin?" asked Scarlet. He ran up to Robin. Two of Robin's men followed him. They looked at Robin. His clothes were wet and his head was bleeding. "I'm fine," said Robin, laughing. "This man wanted to cross the bridge first. We had a little fight, and I fell into the water." "Then we'll throw him into the water," said Scarlet angrily. "No, it was a fair fight," said Robin. And he turned to the tall man. "These are my friends. I hope you will come and have dinner with us. My name is Robin Hood. Welcome to Sherwood Forest." "So you are Robin Hood," said the tall man, and he put out his hand. "I want to join your man. My name's John Little." "You can join us," said Robin, "but we will have to give you another name. That's our custom. What shall we call him, man?" "Let's call him Little John," said Scarlet. Everyone laughed. They all agreed that it was a good name for such a tall man. That night they sat together around the big fire. Little John ate and drank more than any of the others. Chapter 11. A few days later, Robin sent Little John to the Great North Road. "Hide by the road until you see some travelers," he said. "If there are women among them, let them go. And if they look poor, don't stop them. But if you see a knight or an abbot, invite him to dinner. Bring him to me, whether he wants to come or not. I want a guest at dinner tonight." Little John took a few men and went to the Great North Road. They waited a few hours. They let a few groups pass. Finally, they saw a knight. He was alone. Little John went to the middle of the road. He bowed. "Welcome to Sherwood Forest," he said. "Our leader invites you to dinner tonight." "And who's your leader?" the knight asked. "Robin Hood," said Little John. "Robin Hood? I have heard many good things about him," said the knight. "I shall be happy to be his guest." Little John took the knight to Robin Hood. They shook hands. Robin's men cooked the deer over the fire. They had a fine meal. "Thank you," said the knight. When the dinner was finished, "This was the best meal I've eaten in weeks." "I'm glad you like it," said Robin. "But now you must pay for it. That is the custom of Sherwood Forest." "Unfortunately, I have almost no money," answered the knight. "What do you mean?" said Robin. "Search his bags, Little John." "I have less than £1, the knight said. "If that is true," Robin said, "then we won't take a penny." "It's true," said Little John, who had found the knight's money. "Have some more wine," said Robin, "and let's hear your story. How did you lose your money?" "My name is Sir Richard of Lee," the knight said. "My son went to Jerusalem on the crusade. Last year I heard that he was a prisoner. I had to pay £1,000 to free him. I could only find £600. I asked the abbot of St. Mary's to lend me the rest." "The abbot of St. Mary's," Little John said. "He's a bad man." "And a friend of Prince John's," said Robin. "We all know about him. Be quiet, Little John. Let's listen to Sir Richard's story." "The abbot lent me £400, Sir Richard continued. "I promised to pay him back the money in 1 year. I must pay him back tomorrow, but I have less than £1. If I cannot pay him, I'll lose my house and land." "That's terrible," said Robin. But why didn't you save some money? I did, answered Sir Richard. I saved 500 pounds, but 2 weeks ago Prince John's taxman came and took it all away from me. The abbot asked Prince John's man to come, said Robin. This is not the first time he has done things like this. We must stop him. Little John, get 400 pounds from my bags. Give the money to Sir Richard. Thank you, Robin Hood. I will be back in a year. I will give you the 400 pounds back then, said Sir Richard. My man will take you out of Sherwood Forest, said Robin. You are carrying a lot of money. You must be careful. Chapter 12. The next day, the abbot of St. Mary's waited for Sir Richard. It was almost noon, but Sir Richard had not come. He won't come, the abbot said to his monks. Prince John's taxman did a good job. At that moment, Sir Richard came in. He was wearing an old cloak. He looked sad. The abbot was sure that he would get the knight's house and lands. Why are you here today? Someone told me that you have no money, the abbot said and laughed. I've come to ask for mercy. Please give me another 6 months. My son went to Jerusalem to fight for the church. Surely the church can give me a little more time. Never, said the abbot. You have no more time. It's almost noon. You have lost everything. You are a knight, without house or land. Soon you will be an outlaw like Robin Hood. Leave now, or my men will throw you out. Suddenly, Sir Richard stood up. He threw up his cloak. He was wearing fine clothes under his cloak. Don't speak like that of Robin Hood. He's a better man than you. He lent me this money. Count it, he said. He took out 4 bags and put them on the table in front of the abbot. The monks counted the money and found exactly 400 pounds. Sir Richard turned and left the room. The church bell rang 12 times. It was noon, and Sir Richard had paid back every penny. Chapter 13. One day Robin Hood heard that Prince John was in Nottingham. He disguised himself as one of the sheriff's men. Then he walked along the Great North Road. He wanted to learn news of his enemies. He met a young man wearing green and carrying a bow. "Hello, what's the news in Nottingham?" asked Robin. "They say that Prince John has come to look for outlaws," the young man said. "That's good," said Robin. "I'm one of the sheriff's men. But who are you? Why do you carry a bow and wear green?" "That's my business," said the young man, and put his hand on his sword. "So you are an outlaw then," cried Robin, and took out his sword. They began to fight. The young man was good with his sword, but not as strong as Robin. He was soon tired. "Let's stop," said Robin, who did not want to hurt the young man. "You are a good fighter. Why don't you join Robin Hood's men?" "Robin Hood's men? But you said you were one of the sheriff's men," said the young man, very surprised. "Oh, yes, so I did," said Robin. He realized that he had forgotten his disguise. "Actually, I'm an outlaw too. My name is—" "Robin?" said the young man. Before he could finish, "Don't you recognize me? It's me, Marian." "Marian? Our disguises were too good," said Robin. He was amazed. The young man was really his love, Lady Marian. That night, Robin's men sat around the fire. Marian explained why she had escaped from her father's house. "My father wants Guy of Gisborne to marry me. Guy has come to Nottingham with Prince John. They were going to make me marry him tomorrow. That's why I escaped." "You escaped just in time," said Robin. "And now we must get married. But what priest will help us?" I know one, said Marianne. My old friend Friar Tuck will help us, but I don't know where he is. I heard that he was living a hermit somewhere. I think I know, said Scarlet. There is a hermit living by the river near Commonhurst. He's a strong man. He takes travelers across the river for a penny. People say he's a good fighter with a staff too. That's him, said Marianne. Go to see him tomorrow, Robin, and invite him here. Chapter 14. The next day, Robin went to Commonhurst. He found the river. On the other side there was a boat. He could see smoke coming from the hermit's house. Robin shouted, and the hermit came out. I want to cross the river, Robin said. Wait a minute then, the hermit said. He took his staff and pushed his boat across the river. Robin got in, and the hermit took him to the other side. Now, how much money do you have? The hermit said. Only a little, answered Robin. He opened his bag to let the hermit see. The hermit came closer to look. Robin suddenly took out his sword. Drop your staff, Robin ordered him. The hermit dropped it. Now, take me back across the river again, but this time carry me on your back. The hermit bowed down and let Robin climb on his back. Robin held his sword to the hermit's neck. The hermit carried him across the river without any difficulty. The water was not deep, and he was a very strong man. But when he reached the other side, he suddenly threw Robin to the ground. Robin dropped his sword. The hermit picked it up. Now, he said, you must carry me back to my house. He climbed on Robin's back and put the sword to Robin's neck. Robin had to get into the cold water. It was hard to carry the hermit. He was twice as heavy as Robin. The hermit started laughing. Yes, it's very funny, said Robin. Especially when I do this. He threw the hermit over his head into the water. Robin quickly climbed out of the river. He stood and laughed at the hermit. That was a good game, said the hermit. When he finally got out of the water, let's try another one. He took his staff and gave one to Robin. They fought 4 hours, but neither could win. Both were bleeding, though. We've done enough, said the hermit. Let's shake hands now and be friends. Fine, answered Robin, and held out his hand. But I'm hungry. Do you have any food in your house? The hermit looked very serious. I'm just a poor hermit. I drink water from the river and eat only a few vegetables. He took Robin into his house and gave him a few boiled vegetables and a cup of water. Robin began eating, but without much enjoyment. It's strange, he said. You are a big, strong man, but you only eat a few vegetables. Perhaps you can find some better food if I give you something. Robin took out a gold coin and put it on the table. The hermit looked at the coin. Then he laughed. I've just remembered something, he said. He went to the fireplace. A large leg of deer hung in the chimney. He brought it back. It's very good, said Robin, and began to eat. It would be even better with some wine. He took out another gold coin and gave it to the hermit. The hermit smiled. He went away and came back with a large bottle. Before we drink, he said, you should tell me your name. Tell me yours first, said Robin. For you have not always been the hermit of Commonhurst. No, that's true, the hermit said. I used to be Lord Fitzwater's priest, but he threw me out because I did not like Guy of Gisborne. Then you must be Friar Tuck, Robin said. I used to be Earl Robert. I was going to marry Lord Fitzwater's daughter. I don't like Guy of Gisborne either. Robin Hood, I didn't recognize you, Friar Tuck said. Let's drink together, Robin said. And then you have work to do? Work? Asked Friar Tuck. Yes, Robin answered. Marianne and I were almost married once before. You must finish the wedding ceremony in Sherwood Forest." Robin and Marian were married the next day in the Secret Valley. Robin's men came from every part of Sherwood Forest. There were more than 100 of them now. They ate and drank for 3 days, but nobody ate or drank as much as Friar Tuck. He was happy to be with his friends again, and Robin and Marian were very happy to be married at last. After this, Robin and Marian lived for many years together in Sherwood Forest. They had many more adventures. The Sheriff of Nottingham tried many times to catch them, but they were too clever. Finally, King Richard came back to England. Robin and Marian became the Earl and Lady of Huntingdon, but that is another story.